What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video, I thought it would be fun to rank the best exotics on each class, so this video, we'll go over the best Warlock exotics. The criteria is the general strength of the exotic, but how much I like it will definitely play a factor in the ranking. Additionally, this is primarily focused on PvE, so if a certain exotic is awesome in PvP, I probably won't mention it in the top 10. I'm more looking at stuff that takes a build to the next level. So with that out of the way, let's jump into it. So starting off at number 10, we have the Swarmer Boots. These allow your tangles to spawn threadlings and your threadlings to unravel targets. Unraveling is a great source of passive damage, and it also provides some AoE ad clear. These are pretty much the de facto strand exotic on Warlock, so they are well worth a mention. I made a threadling army Swarmers build that goes super hard, especially in Onslaught, and it's really fun. It's one of my favorite builds in the game, and it holds up well in pretty much all levels of content. These are just a really fun and strong exotic. At number 9, we have one of my favorite exotics in the game in the Geomag Stabilizers. I have loved these boots since they first dropped in Forsaken. They extend the duration of your Chaos Reach, allowing it to hit extremely hard, and they're a ton of fun. They also got reworked so that with the boots equipped, Ionic Traces provide super energy on top of the ability regeneration that they already provide. This is really nice as not only does it buff the damage output of your super, but you also get it more often. They used to be able to top up your super energy just by sprinting, but this broke things like Special Finisher in PvE, and they became the meta in Trials as you could use them to get your super before the enemy team, and it just promoted really passive and boring gameplay. Chaos Reach is one of the coolest supers in the game, but it's pretty weak at base, but this can make it hit for up to 120% more damage. The super is really good in endgame content as you can cast it from a safe distance, and it's also very versatile because you can use it for both ad clear and good single target damage. So this is just an all around great exotic. At 8, we have Fallen Sunstar. This exotic allows Ionic Traces to grant double the ability energy return than they do at base. A whopping 25% grenade and melee energy and 30% class ability. And if you play Arc, you know that it's the ability spam subclass. So this just cranks up your ability spam like crazy. And on top of that, when you pick up an Ionic Trace, your teammates will also get 10% of their grenade, melee, and class ability. So it's not only buffing your build, but it's also helping your fire team to spam their abilities as well. It's undoubtedly a really strong exotic. Next up at 7 is Dawn Chorus, another cool exotic that buffs a super. It allows your Scorch damage to hit for 3 times more damage than normal, which is really strong in the right builds. And it also grants melee energy whenever you apply Scorch. On top of this, it allows your Daybreak projectiles to add Scorch, and then they deal more damage. So now your super can ignite targets and deal 90% more damage. Just like with Geomags, this helps to buff a relatively weak super at base, and it also enhances other areas of your build with that increase to Scorch damage. This is honestly one of my favorite exotics to run on Warlock, and I'm happy it's been getting lots of love recently, especially this season with how strong Solar is. It's just an all-around great exotic to run for any Solar Warlock enjoyer. At number 6 is Necrotic Grip. These apply a poisonous damage over time effect to enemies, which can be extremely potent. It's very good for passive boss damage, and it's also really good for ad clear, as if the effective enemy dies, it will spread the poison to nearby enemies. These can be used on any subclass, but are best with a certain Strand Warlock build that I made a video on, so check that out if you want more info. But yeah, these are just a wonderfully powerful exotic for a variety of builds. I love these things. At number 5, we have Osmiomancy Gloves. Basically the de facto choice for any Shadebinder Warlock. It grants you 2 Cold Snap grenades, and you can spam them over and over if you are getting direct hits. But where they are really valuable is with the Aspect Bleak Watcher, which allows you to lock down the battlefield with turrets that can slow and freeze enemies. With stasis buffs coming in the final shape, we could see these get even better. At 4, we have one of my all-time favorites in the Controverse Hold. Voidwalker undoubtedly has some other very good exotics that you could absolutely run, but I think these are the best. They grant huge grenade energy returns when you hit enemies with your Void Grenade. They also give some damage resistance when you charge up your grenade. They used to be totally busted in PvP with handheld Supernova, especially when Oppressive Darkness was on the artifact. And I definitely took advantage of this broken ability and used it as a crutch to climb my way to 5500 for the first time to earn my Not Forgotten back in the day. It's just a timeless exotic that is always a good pick. I've soloed numerous GMs with these as well, and on most day 1 raids, this is the build I go in with, just because most raids start with an ad clear encounter, and this build is great for that. I used it on Bridge encounter in Crota's End, and had a clutch kill to proc Devour to get the last sword over and beat the encounter on day 1. I just love this exotic. At number 3 we have Verity's Brow. This exotic works on any subclass, which is awesome for build variety, and it can make all your grenades hit for double damage when it's at max stacks. This is obviously very strong with a lot of grenades, but it gets even better. You can also give allies Feel the Flame buff, and they get 10 times grenade regeneration for 5 seconds, so it allows your teammates to spam grenades as well. So you may be thinking, if this is so strong, why don't more people use it? Well, it requires kind of strict conditions. You have to get kills that match your subclass, and then you have to chuck your grenades. And your teammates have to know how it works as well and be coordinated in throwing their grenades when they have the Feel the Flame buff. If they do this, then it works amazingly, but if not, it is basically useless. And you also have to run weapons that can mow down adds to get the 5 stacks for heavy hitting grenades. I soloed a GM with this though, and it was really good. And I also ran some GMs with a friend who added on, and we were just spamming hard-hitting fusion grenades over and over. It was so fun. People use this exotic to solo Atheon, the Vault of Glass final boss, and it is used in certain speedrun strats like Caretaker and Rulk and Vour the Disciple. So it's obviously very good. But again, it does require some strict setup and the right conditions to get the most out of it. But in the situations where it works, it's devastatingly strong. At number 2, we have the Cenotaph Mask. I believe this came out in Season of the Deep, and I made a video saying it was very strong and a lot of people didn't seem to agree. But once it caught on in the community, people quickly learned how great that it can be. Basically, it slowly reloads your trace rifle as you shoot it, which is nice for ease of use. But then, if you shoot a boss or champion, it will mark it. If your teammates kill the marked target, it drops a heavy brick for your team and a special brick for you. The special brick is awesome as it keeps your trace rifle reserves topped up, and the heavy for your team is amazing. GM speedrunners quickly caught on to this one, and until Banner of War came into the game, the main speedrun strat was to have at least 2 Cenotaph Warlocks marking everything, and everyone just deleting everything with Galahorn and legendary rocket launchers. And this was extremely easy to do because you basically have unlimited rockets if you're using this correctly. But even with how good this exotic is, many teams aren't coordinated enough or skilled enough to burn through GMs. But when Onslaught was introduced, then it really came into the mainstream. People learned the power of unlimited ammo and never looked back. And because there are exploder units in Onslaught, then that diminishes the power of Banner of War Strand Titan just a little bit. So now it's not really the most optimal strat like it is for GMs. So Cenotaph is back in the meta. Anything that can generate heavy ammo at a safe distance is sure to be a great exotic, so this gets my number 2 spot. Now, before we get to number 1, I do want to give a few honorable mentions. First, I have to give a huge shout out to 2 awesome exotics in Transversive Steps and Ophidian Aspects. Ophidians are great with everything as they just make your weapons feel buttery smooth. The reload and handling speed is just so sweet. I love these things and they look really cool too, and this is my exotic of choice for my go-to Crucible builds. And my other favorite Crucible exotic is Transversive Steps. These make you crouch walk faster as well as allow you to sprint quicker and slide further. They're used in a lot of speedrunning. And when you're sprinting, they can reload your equipped weapons as well. I actually used these this season in the solo Pit of Heresy in the Chamber of Suffering to auto-reload Xenophage, and it worked great. And you also have to be pretty fast in that encounter, so these are a pretty solid option. And Ophidian Aspects are also used quite often in high-end play by speedrunners for fast swap DPS rotations. So while these exotics are great and certainly have a place in PvE, they don't quite make the cut. Speaking of just missing the cut, the Briarbinds on Voidlock are super powerful. They allow your Void Soul to do more damage, and you can pick up your Void Soul and keep shooting it at enemies over and over. This is strong in both PvE and PvP. These things are so much fun to use, and they're just really good. But I feel like they just weren't quite good enough to be in the top 10. Winter's Guile have some pretty fun potential thanks to how much they can buff your melee, but again, just a little too niche for the top 10. Same goes for Rain of Fire. Very strong, but a little bit of a niche playstyle. Vesper of Radius is really fun and strong as well, but again requires a certain type of playstyle to use it to its max effectiveness. And it's crazy to see how far Starfire Protocol has fallen since its glory days, but having 2 fusion grenades is still quite strong. And Lunafaction boots are great for DPS phases and raids, but not amazing on their own. And the last honorable mention is Fellwinter's Helm. I love this thing and it's so close to being great. The effect it provides is amazing. It is one of only 3 things in the game that can apply a 30% weaken to enemies, with Tractor Cannon and Tether being the others. If you get a melee or finisher final blow, it will weaken and disorient nearby targets. I've spoken in many videos about how strong disorienting is, so it's very strong. And like I said, a 30% weaken is no joke. This exotic also has some niche use cases in high-end speedrunning, and even solo dungeon and solo Nezarec clears. It's awesome. But its use cases are a little too niche. Like, it's usually only ever used just as a swap exotic. If Warlock had some stronger melee abilities, then this thing could be incredible. So that brings us to the number 1 Warlock exotic, and that, in my opinion, is Sunbracers. Players have soloed 50 waves of Legend Onslaught with Sunbracers, which is something that the Bungie devs didn't even think was possible. So this gives you a sense of how good these things are. They got a huge glow up with Solar 3.0. I remember using them before Solar 3.0, and while I loved them, you didn't see them much. Touch of Flame is a super strong aspect, and this is what makes it so much stronger now. As I said, Verity's Brow Fusion Grenades can solo raid bosses thanks to this aspect, but they also buff Solar Grenades to be even better than they already are. And Sunbracers allows you to throw these infinitely as long as you know what you're doing. I've used these in many day 1 raids as well, and there really isn't a much better option for ad clear in the entire game. They also buff the duration of the already strong solar grenades, and they have fastball built in intrinsically. As long as there are some low level ads around, which there are in tons of encounters these days, then you can just keep proccing Sunbracers and throwing grenades over and over and over. They are truly incredible. So to recap, at number 10 we had the Swarmers, number 9 Geomag Stabilizers, number 8 Fallen Sunstar, number 7 Dawn Chorus, number 6 Necrotic Grip, number 5 Osmiomancy Gloves, number 4 Controverse Hold, number 3 Verity's Brow, number 2 Cenotaph Mask, and number 1 Sunbracers. And that is going to do it for the best Warlock exotics in Destiny 2. Making this list really made me realize how many awesome exotics Warlocks have, as it was quite tough to narrow this list down to just 10. But I think if you used any of the 10 on this list, then you would have pretty good success in most levels of content. Leave a comment down below letting me know what your favorite Warlock exotic is and why. I may make a video on what mine is if I get time to before the final shape. Anyways, if you're still watching, then thanks so much for watching to the end. It means a lot. And if you want to see more ranking videos like this, then be sure to check out my weapon ranking videos. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and take care.